The Mike Magazine will be coming to you with more exclusive interviews. Guess who's going to be next? I guess we will never know. Stay tuned to Delta Sip. Angela Buckney here, the voice behind the mic. Delta Sip, where we sip slow and talk what we know. And if you need a commercial, let me know. Want to advertise? Not a problem. We have affordable rates. Call 662-207-2077. The views and opinions expressed in this channel are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they may represent or affiliate with.
What you're doing right now and download the G Wood Live app. It's absolutely free. There's no cost. I'll say it again. It's absolutely free. It's your way to stay connected and stay involved in the community. Download the G Wood Live app on your Apple or your Google Play. Stay connected, stay positive, stay involved. Download the G Wood Live app today.
Carlos Moore Law Group. Vanguards for Justice, celebrating 18 years advocating for justice and equality throughout the great states of Mississippi, Tennessee, and Georgia in various areas of practice. Carlos Moore Law Group, Vanguards for Justice, will fight fervently for you. To get more, buy more, call today or scan the QR code for more details. 662. Rosie's Workshop is the Mike Magazine's official small business choice for Tumblr designs. Place an order with Rosie's Workshop. Don't stress yourself. Rosie can do it. You can't think of a gift to get someone, whether it's a teacher, friend, church member, you name it. You should consider today going to Rosie's Workshop. That's Rosie Blackshire at rosiesworkshop@gmail.com or on Facebook. 662-635-3029. Whether buying or selling a home, Dr. Deborah Dace has the blueprint. At Exit Southern Charm Realty, Dr. Deborah Dace is there to assist you. Dr. Dace is not just a realtor. She's an award-winning realtor who can make investing in your future home a breeze. This process should never be complicated. Allow her to put you in the home of your dreams. And she can also help you sell your home. Either way, enjoy your key to happiness and give Dr. Dace a call today. And welcome back to another segment of Delta Sipping. On this evening, we have two special guests with us. That is Felicia Tripp and Jeremy Houston. And the conversation is going to be centered around Mississippi history, along with the upcoming runoff election hashtag. It ain't over yet. All right, so we're gonna jump right on in. Let me get in here. Just a minute. I know y'all say, where you at, girl? Where you at? Here I go. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to Delta Sip, where we sip slow and talk what we know. Without further ado, we're gonna bring in our special guests. Whoa, wait a minute. Welcome to Delta Sip, everybody.
Hello.
All
Thank you for
right.
having me, Sister Angela.
Thank you. For those who may not know you, we're gonna start with Jeremy. You know, they say ladies first, but you the only guy with us. Tell us a little bit about you, Mr. Houston.
Well, I'm Jeremy Houston. I'm from Natchez, Mississippi. From 2016 to 2020, we had a tour company that specialized in the African American history, culture, and heritage of Natchez, Mississippi, named Miss Lou Heritage Group and Tours, where our motto was "Where Heritage comes alive." And in that time, we brought out the African American history and culture of Natchez to thousands of travelers, visitors, guests who came to Natchez and wanted to know about the forks of the road, to Hiram Revels, to John R. Lynch to the Rhythm nightclub fire in 1940. And so now we have a new endeavor called Magnolia Bayou Heritage Company. And now we'll be focused on more of the state of Mississippi, African American history and culture, from Jackson to Natchez to Vicksburg to Holly Springs to Gulfport. And so we're looking to make sure that, and also we're also looking to make sure that African Americans can benefit from tourism and hospitality in Mississippi, as it's probably the third or fourth largest industry in the state. And I think African Americans need to have a piece of the pie, especially when it comes to our culture and
So,
history.
so tourism is where the money is.
No, yes, it is.
Let me ask you. You said Natchez. Does
Mm-hmm.
that include the Devil's Punch Bowl?
We don't talk about fake history.
Okay. Why you call it fake?
We're not going to talk about fake history.
So that you're saying that never happened?
It wasn't like what Don Esther said when y'all saw that video,
Okay.
and I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. Sister Felicia, for
Hello,
those who
hello.
don't know you, and you're no stranger to the Mike Magazine platform, tell us who you are.
My name is Felicia Tripp. I'm a member of the LOC, the local organizing committee. I'm the state chair for the disaster committee for the NAACP. I work in the realm of disaster preparedness as well as renewable energy with Eversol Solar. So that's just a
Hmm.
little bit about me.
Just a little bit, cause honey,
Just
it's a lot to you. Okay, that's just enough about you. And so on tonight, I know um that one of the things that is ever so pressing right now in the state of Mississippi is this runoff election. And with runoff elections, we do know, based on statistics, that people rarely show back up in the same numbers that they
yes,
did when we had, say, that national election, right? Because
right,
truth be told, not everybody showed up for that one.
right,
So trying to get the people to come back for this second time is going to be a doozy. And so what we can't do is just be so relaxed and things like that. And God forbid that it rains that day, right?
right, right, right.
Because we know the chances are slim to nil on that day. And
Yes,
so what we're hearing, I heard Kara Shirley from WLBT pushing the vote early, if you need to. And we do know that based on people voting early, that those numbers make a difference, because the numbers in the boxes or at the polls, those are the numbers for that day, but you don't know what's going on with that early voting, and that's what can push you over, right?
right.
And so I think Trump learned his lesson during COVID, when the people were saying, hey, go vote early, and he's like, nah, y'all ain't gotta go vote early, if I remember correctly. But that's where he got his tail whooped at, right there, the early voting.
Right.
So hey, take it away.
Well, and I want to speak to early voting. We have people who vote early, but it's really called absentee voting in Mississippi because, we couldn't get the early voting passed here. So for those who are of a certain age, or if you have a disability, or if you're going to be out of town, that is your way of going early to vote, right?
Right.
In absentia of being able to go in person on the day of voting, which for this runoff is 2 days before Thanksgiving, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I encourage people to, if, as Angela just stated, if you can go and put in that absentee ballot now, go do it. As soon as you can, take someone with you. Because what's interesting is we have a very high tendency to be offended. We have a tendency to be outraged when we see certain cases come up, like what happened in Rankin County with the
Mm-hmm.
goon squad. And there's
Mm-hmm.
so many other cases, right? We have a very high statistic of violent crime that is going on here.
Even with
So we
Emmett
look at
Till,
things.
even with the Emmett Till, that
Right,
sparked the civil rights movement, right?
right,
So
right, right.
right here in the state of Mississippi. So we know that a lot of things were pushed forward out of, as it relates to voting, out of the struggle. Keep talking, Sister
Yeah.
Felicia.
Oh yeah, of course. And and what's so interesting about it, you bring up Emmett Till. So what's wrapped up in that case? The judicial system itself. But
Mm,
on the ballot, the only thing people were thinking about were the presidential elections. They
mm-hmm.
think about the Supreme Court when national news is talking about it,
Only.
but we don't think about the court cases here in the judicial seats that are up for election right here in Mississippi. And
Mm-hmm.
several of those seats are part of the runoff elections that are taking place. And they
Mm-hmm.
are so, so, so important. One of those in our area is the Mississippi Supreme Court seat. Judge Kitchens held the seat for quite some time now. And now he's in a runoff election with Miss Jennifer Branning,
Mm-hmm.
state senator. And she's from the Neshoba County area, if I'm not mistaken,
Which is a
Philadelphia area.
historical area in the state of Mississippi.
Absolutely. It's too often, too many times we talk about things from the perspective of we shall overcome.
Mm-hmm.
We have this mindset of going to memorialize things that have happened. History is important, but it's not there just simply for us to look and say, "Oh, that was bad."
Mm-hmm.
It should be a lesson moving forward, so we're not repeating things. And
Mm-hmm.
who it is that is elected into these seats is vital. It is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely vital. So,
Sister Felicia, you talk a lot about local elections. Jeremy, I'm going to shift over to you. And can you tell us the importance of, we know national elections are good, and that's where
Mhm.
mainstream media will put a lot of focus, because that's where the dollars are going to the mainstream media. We're grassroots here, right? And so
Okay.
that's what is pushed more so than anything to galvanize the people. But we're
Yes, ma'am.
grassroots. And Jeremy, talk a little bit about the importance of local elections.
I think local elections, you can have a direct benefit or a direct impact
Mm-hmm.
on on what policies and what how can I say it, policies and agendas or that'll be pushed in your city. For example,
Mm-hmm.
at one time in Natchez, we had 5 African Americans sitting in political seats. In Natchez, we had a black mayor and four black board of aldermen.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like at that time, it seemed like we couldn't get nothing done, but we had the numbers to be able to affect the change. And
Mm-hmm.
some things did get done. I'm not going to say that everything didn't get done because it opened up because of those people sitting in the seat at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, tourism and hospitality opportunities did open up in the northern
Mm-hmm.
side of town that focused more on the African American story and culture. So local elections have a direct impact on your where you live at the time. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that they are very important for people to go out and vote. And even
Mm-hmm.
myself, I ran for office in 2016 in Natchez,
Mm.
and I end up a lot of people, showed up the first time, but in the second time for the runoff, we didn't get as much participation as we would have
Yes.
in the first
Did, did
time.
it
So
did it rain that day?
no, it didn't
Mhm.
rain. It was hot, but it didn't rain.
God forbid it rains for this election, because we know
Yeah.
that the turnout will not be as it'll be half of what it might
Well,
be
I
for the
will
day of
say
running.
this. I will say this. Whether it's rain, snow, sleet, or shine, uh, European counterparts they're gonna show up because it's important to them. But it's us who are saying, "Oh man, it's raining. I ain't going out there messing with that. My car ain't working today, or I gotta go to a funeral or something like
Yeah,
that." So
anything, you know. And it's unfortunate that we have gotten to this point, because when we talk about Emmett Till, when we about the three civil rights workers who were found dead in Neshoba County, when we talk about Fannie Lou Hamer and others
Mhm.
unknown, unnamed by mainstream media, because my father was a no name. Um, I see it, in my opinion, to be a slap in the face to them, because it's like, okay, they're gone. That's the old time. No,
Right.
if you look back in the 90s, which was like 30 years ago, we're pushing forward, and we're the grown-ups now, right?
Right.
And
Right.
what I'm noticing is that for us to be the grown-ups, we're not as interested, or we're not taking too much to politics like our forefathers or our ancestors. And they understood that with the Jim Crow laws, right? In the Jim Crow South, that the laws is what held us back. And so they
Right.
knew that if we could counteract this with voting, we could get somewhere, right?
Right.
But it's not a lot of fight anymore.
So,
Not a
Mhm.
lot of fight anymore. People voting against their own best interests now.
yes,
Right.
yes,
The votes are being bought. A hot dog, a piece of catfish. It's not being taken seriously anymore in our
Right.
community. And
right.
people look at us as a black and brown community and say, "My goodness, what are they thinking about, Sister Felicia?"
I mean, we're disengaged, and to be quite honest with you, we're lazy. We're
Okay.
lazy about gathering information. Well, we're not utilizing critical thinking, and we talk about it being a slap in the face of those who came before us. It's actually more of a slap in the face to your children's children, those who are coming after, because the policies
Mhm.
that we allow to go on today affect the future, and we're allowing people to come into this society based on our lack of
Mm-hmm.
willingness to have critical thinking, our lack of
Mm-hmm.
willingness to set a stage where they can have a decent place to come into. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we're tearing their future down before they ever get here by
Mm-hmm.
not being a part of that process.
Mm-hmm.
We continue to hear people say, I don't want to hear about who died before me. That's fine. But when you are not even willing to slap a condom on and it probably playing for a family and not vote. Now, somebody who didn't choose to be here, you're disengaged from you're disengaged from the conversation, you're disengaged from policy, and you don't want to wear a condom. How dare you? So we really need to think
A
beyond
triple
just
threat.
those who came before us.
Mhm. And,
A
and
triple threat.
also, if you don't mind, also a lot of times when those people get elected to those seats, from what we've seen in the past, it's like once they get there, they forget all about the people who sit in the political seat. They'll forget about the people who elected them. You don't see them. You don't see them until election time.
Let me
Or
let
Right.
me ask you something. With that being said, should there be term limits?
Yes.
well, I think well, the 4 year term that's right now for like let's see, like city councilmen and and mayors. I think that's good, and I think the 2 year term that they give to what is congressmen, state representatives,
Yeah.
and people like that. I think that's good. So I don't think no one should be serving. Uh, as a mayor, I don't think they should be serving 20 to 24 years because I know in Natchez
Exactly.
we had that happen from 1968 until 1988.
Whoa.
Tony Byrne was the mayor of Natchez for 20 years straight. And I think that it should be a limit like how they may do in Louisiana where they have a
Let me
8 year
ask
limit.
you, but did Natchez flourish under his administration?
Yeah, they did. They really did.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big change from from John Nosser administration to Tony Byrne because Tony Byrne engulfed himself in the community, and he
Okay.
just didn't look out for the white community. He also got in there with Mr. Evers, Charles Evers, and
Mm-hmm.
they tried to affect the change in a better
Mm-hmm.
way, but they did the best that they could do. Put it like that.
Okay. Now, Sister Felicia, you said yes. Now I heard Mr. Houston say there should be term limits on that local level. Um,
Mhm.
what do you say?
I absolutely agree with term limits. You know, we have term limits for some offices. The governor can't serve any more than 2 terms.
Mhm,
Lieutenant governor can't serve any more than 2 terms.
mhm.
We have the president. They can't serve any more than 2 terms on the national level. So yes, on the local level, I believe that we need to look into having term limits because you described a case where it was a positive thing for the person who served that long.
Mhm.
However, there are too many cases where we have people who get in and they get complacent. We have too many incidents of that. And I think that when you really look at progress and you don't see it, and you have a body of people that are willing to vote based on name recognition, this is who I'm used to. And we have this excuse all the time of, I don't know this person, as if it's not inherent upon us to do a little research. You know, it's called a resume. When people go to apply for a job, do you think you can ever say, huh, you're sitting there, let's just imagine we were a panel, right? And
Mhm.
we're looking to hire a person. They came before us and we're looking at the resume, and I say, hey guys, yes, you're right. This person has an excellent resume. They interview well. Background checks are great, but I don't know them. This is a job, and all we do is say, oh, I don't know that person, and I get it, and I think people mean what people mean by that is I haven't seen them in the community. Well, the
Yeah.
truth is, the average person who says that is not even in the community to know who's doing what anyway. That's just the
Wow.
truth. That is
Well,
absolutely true. The same person who's not at the PTA meeting will say, I don't know that person. The same person who's not at any of the city council meetings or the board of supervisors meeting, I don't know that person. But can you read?
and
Can you
see,
read? If you can read, do some research and know who the candidates are. And let's
and
just do better.
let me break in right quick for those who are
Mhm.
tuning in. If you are trying to leave a comment, you can only leave your comment on the Mike Magazine professional page on Facebook or YouTube. Please leave your comments on the professional business page of the Mike Magazine, like you see right there on the screen. And I just wanted to just say, for me, running a platform, I could easily tell people, "Hey, go vote for Dr. Cornel West," because that was my guy. But that's not what I
Right,
did. My thing was, "Hey, I know who I want to vote for, and my reasons why." But my message on my platform during election season to my people who support me is go and educate yourself. And not just educate yourself. When you educate yourself, make your decision based on what it is that you've learned and what you perceive to be fair. Go and vote. Once you're done voting, it doesn't stop there. Follow your vote. Hold them accountable. When they're doing good, tell them they're doing good. It's okay. When they're not doing good, it's okay. But we don't want the bad to outweigh the good, you know? I hear
Right.
people say, "Oh, we're going to vote for black people. We're going to vote for this and that." Well, what happens when you don't have a black person on the ballot? Right? So now you need to educate yourself and you need to do this process of elimination, right?
right,
And you need to
Mhm.
figure out how to vote for the best interest of you and your community. And Mr. Houston made a
True.
comment. He said that they're going to come out. I think it was him said white people are going to come out. Who was that?
Yeah, they're gonna come out.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
my father taught us one thing about politics. When white people vote, they vote in blocks. They're going to vote for who they say they're going to vote for. And you know what I found in the result after the results were in when Donald J. Trump um was announced to be the winner is that some of the people were bamboozled. They were tricked, and they believed that somehow, some way, Kamala Harris was going to snag a win. Well, first of all, she's a black woman. There's two
Mhm.
things going against her. And people say she slept her way to the top. People don't like that. People don't like that. Even though they'll sleep with a slut, and I'm not calling the vice president, Madam Vice President, that. But what I'm saying, they'll sleep with a slut all day. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
But they don't want you up there in a position where it's supposed to be someone of prestige and who walks in integrity and dignity and have some children. We want somebody with, I'm just saying what
I'm
I
just
hear the
saying
people
though,
say.
they have that for the women, but come on now,
We
grab
want,
them by the pee. I mean,
hey,
it's not
this is
really
a
prestigious.
man's world.
I travel across the country, right? And
Uh-huh.
I saw, for example, I was all up in New York, Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, California, even parts of California, Arizona. And the amount of Donald Trump signs and billboards that I saw, I was like, there's no way that this dude could lose. There's
That's
no
right.
way.
That's right. That's right. And I'm gonna tell you guys something. When they made those assassination attempts on his life,
Oh, yeah.
you get sympathy votes then. They didn't have to do him like that. And not only that, when they convicted him, the
Oh,
black
yeah.
men came out. Oh no, oh no. They convicted me too. I'm gonna vote
All
for him
right.
too. They brought him in as a bosom buddy. And they made him
Yeah.
one of theirs because his conviction resonated with them, right? And
And
people will
timing
vote.
is everything.
People. And another thing that I noticed with this election, the black people divorced the Democratic Party openly. They divorced them openly. Why do you say that? Well, you got people who voted for Kamala Harris. You got people who voted for Dr. Cornel West, Dr. Jill Stein, and the rest, Oliver Chase, and the rest.
Mhm.
But they showed you, hey, the votes that could have gone towards the Democratic ticket, we put our vote somewhere else.
Well,
And we're showing you that just because we're black does not mean that because you're giving us Section 8, because they're going to cut it one day, because you're giving us food stamps, because they're going to cut that one day. That
Because most of us
Thank
don't
you.
even qualify for
Right,
well,
right. And so our votes don't automatically belong to you, Democratic Party. That's what I noticed. But what were you about to say, Mr. Houston?
I don't know. I saw from the polls I saw that over 70%, close to 80% of black men voted for Kamala Harris. It was only 20-some% of black men who voted for Donald Trump, and 92% of black women voted for Kamala Harris.
Well,
So
guess
I
what?
don't think I
But
don't
guess
think
what?
they divorced it.
But
but
guess what?
that's of the ones
It
that
still
voted.
put
So,
him, it still put him over. He still needed black votes.
It
well,
seemed
and
like more of
also
his.
there was a significant amount of people that didn't vote at all. And I think that number's not being looked at in the millions.
Mm-hmm.
The gap of people who voted in the last presidential election versus this one, the numbers are staggering. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it extends beyond just black voters. I believe Jeremy spoke to this earlier. You have a lot of poor whites who feel absolutely overlooked,
Mm-hmm.
and they're disengaged from voting as a result of black
Mm-hmm.
and white. Because right now we have too many people who are a part of a system
Mm-hmm.
that they don't feel like the system is looking out for them and their family. And
Yes.
so vote for what is the mentality. And then that's not me saying that that's right or wrong, but
Mm-hmm.
that's me being empathetic and understanding
Right.
to the fact that this whole thing of Democrat versus Republican is
Mm-hmm.
not really making the average Joe, the average American,
Mm-hmm.
be able to see a tomorrow where they're not going from check to check
Come on.
Mhm.
and be able to have this so-called American dream of home ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And with every inflation the way that it is, with the pay scale for the average job the way that it is, with the cost of education where it is, where does the average American fit into what's going on with the antics that we hear about on
Mm-hmm.
Capitol Hill? And
Mm-hmm.
then when you look on the local level and you look out your front door, you look to your left and you look to your right, if you live in certain communities and you see blight, overgrowth, hopefully not a bullet coming past you, not feeling safe enough to go to a local park, not feeling safe enough to breathe the air around you or drink the water that comes out of your faucet, yet not having a reduction in the amount of taxes and money that you have to pay for property taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Not seeing any relief anywhere. I can definitely understand it.
We got a
What's the
comment.
representation for the average American?
We have a comment here from Chris Williams. Thank you so much, Chris. And Tony Briggs has been hanging in there with us. And we had Jason Clark hanging in there with us. And she says, some people are not voting because of the two-party system is basically the same thing with different names now.
Yes. One bird, two wings. Okay. And years ago when the Constitution was written, some of the slave owners and what you all call forefathers of the country
Mm-hmm.
said, John Adams in particular, said that the death of this country would be a two-party system. So it was never a mentality that was the direction that we needed to go. Yet we end up in the middle of this gang war that you all call Democrat versus Republican.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about Chicago, they talk about Chris versus Bloods or whatever other gangs exist now. Not trying to offend the gang members.
Right.
But to me, the Democrat versus Republican comes off as nothing more than a gang war in a lot of cases. And now we have people on a local level who argue about the politics on Capitol Hill and don't even, I hate to say this, but the average person not even knowing what they're talking about, not knowing who's responsible for what. My mind will always go back to the time when I was standing with a local candidate who's running for sheriff, and a woman asked him what he was going to do about the bridge.
Don't do that. Don't do that, sister.
It happened.
What is he going to do about the bridge?
You heard me about the bridge that was out. And that was just one of a laundry list of questions that had absolutely nothing to do with law enforcement. So we have a group, a body, and this was not a black person. So again, we can't limit these things to black or white, Democrat or Republican. And as long as we stay in that battle and that mindset, we're going to continue to get what we're getting, which is worse and worse. And again, people are continuously having children and bringing them into a world that's not suitable for them to be able to survive.
You better say it.
With the tools that are placed before them. So we are resilient people, but how resilient can we be is it costs more to get less. And as we continue to allow accountability to be put on the back burner because someone has the same complexion as us or is the same race as us.
If you are just tuning in, you were just listening to Felicia Tripp give her spiel. We had Jeremy Houston, and of course, we are having a much needed conversation about the history as it pertains to voting in the state of Mississippi. And I have a video here that I would like to bring up in just a second. Give me a second. We'll be right back with that video.
Angela Buckner here. 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 The voice behind the mic. The mic. The mic. Be sure to support our platform.
Okay. Just a second. And we are about to bring on the video. And this is a video of Jerry Mitchell, just me and Jerry Mitchell, He came on as a special guest, and we talked about his book, Race Against Time. Okay.
Mhm.
And we're going to pull that up in just a second and get right back to you guys. Let's see here. Hold on.
Jerry Mitchell.
I'm not able to hear him.
Thank God for Jerry Mitchell.
Give me just a second. I'm in the wrong spot, you guys.
Okay.
In the meantime, in between time. Where
are you at right now? The Attorney General's office in Jackson, Mississippi, the Walter Sillers building. So right
Why
now,
is it important to be here at this location, Priscilla?
because as a family member of Emmett Till, 6 to 8 years we've been fighting for justice. We have come to Lynn's Finch office as well, and we never received any justice. She never met with us, and so as Michael Jenkins' mama, Damian Cameron's mom, we're trying to get justice.
Okay. Just a second, people. And while we're here and we have someone from Jackson with us tonight, we're going to play.
I want to shift gears right quick, and we can't have you in the Mississippi Delta without asking you about what's happening in Jackson. We do know that there is going to be an arraignment that happened today. Some federal indictments were handed down right there in Jackson. Can you talk a little bit about that and what it is that you know?
Well, obviously, the charges are very serious. It is early in the process, and because it is an ongoing criminal matter, I don't believe I should make any other comment.
Thank you, Governor.
Jackson residents, it is with great disappointment that I come before you. My legal team has informed me that federal prosecutors have, in fact, indicted me on bribery and related charges. To be clear, I have never accepted a bribe of any type. As mayor, I have always acted in the best interest of the citizens of Jackson. We believe this to be a political prosecution against me, primarily designed to destroy my credibility and reputation within the community. There is no coincidence in its timing being just before the upcoming mayoral race. My legal team will vigorously defend me against these charges. Again, while I am disappointed, I am not deterred. So I ask for your patience and your prayers during this process. Thank you.
Okay, give me a second. Here we go. We're about ready to roll.
Right in stride with this. They were, basically, segregationist newspapers. And so both of them were, getting sovereignty commission reports and publishing them. And it was just crazy. But they got the Jackson Advocate to publish it first. So it made the story look more legitimate.
Right.
And then the Clarion Ledger published the story. And it was like ML King linked to Reds or something like that. And it was ridiculous.
That's heartbreaking because in 2010, if I'm not mistaken, famous photographer from Memphis, Ernest
Withers, is that his
Ernest
name?
Withers, yeah, he was informant for the FBI. Worked for the FBI. Got paid by somebody at the FBI.
Black guy. They say he would
Yeah,
go
very
into
very disappointing, and took a lot of famous photos people know, including
yeah,
in the Emmett Till case. He's the one
yeah.
that took the photograph of Mose Wright pointing his finger at.
No, he
Yeah,
he
he
took that
photo.
picture.
Yeah, he did. He did take that picture. He did.
And I was wondering who took that picture, and it was a black
Ernest
guy.
Withers. Ernest Withers took that picture.
My goodness. And I just saw that picture the other day of him pointing.
Yeah. He took it. I can't remember if he took it directly from the Chicago Defender or maybe it was one of the other newspapers in Memphis, but he took that photograph. It ran the Defender. It ran all around the world.
Well, the good thing about that, when we speak of Myrlie Evers, there's a quote that I got this morning that she said at NAACP function that how did she put it? Oh, how I wish the Jackson Advocate had been like this when Medgar was living.
Yeah. Well, that was
Charles Tisdale had the opportunity. They warned him, you need to change the name of the Jackson Advocate, but he didn't.
I don't know about all that, but that's news to me. But his family has certainly turned the paper around, and there's
yes
for that.
And I'm also told that in the Civil Rights Museum, the Jackson Advocate has no place there. And this is why, because Percy Green betrayed the people.
I'm of the opinion we to me, history, this is what history is about, in my opinion. You have all this debate now about CRT and what do we teach kids in schools. And the other day on Twitter, this history teacher said, I had this white student come up to me and say, they just studied the Indian Removal Act. And the student said to her, why do we always have to study things that are so sad? And so the teacher was asking for what should she say back. And so I actually replied. And what I said was, sometimes the truth is bad, sometimes it's happy, but we must always tell the truth. So that's, I think, the answer is, it's all about the truth, and we may not, it's not always going to be pleasant. And we're right here in the Bible Belt, so I can use this example, right? If you read the Bible, for example, there are a lot of sad stories.
But they're necessary.
Yeah, but we still read them, right? We still read them. It doesn't keep us from reading those stories. And why do we read these stories? Because we can learn from them.
That's right.
And history is the same way. We don't teach history from a perspective of, any other reason than, look, this really happened. Obviously, we don't want this happening again. So let's tell the truth.
Let me say this. But let me say this, though. Throughout history now, since we're talking about about the Bible, there was a Pharaoh who came along way after Joseph had favor in Egypt.
That's right.
And he said, I don't know nothing about no Joseph or his God. And he blotted him out. So the people who have control, they get the upper hand and they get that opportunity to write the history. So we know throughout history this has happened. So this is not unusual. But when you have watchdog reporters, when you have investigative reporters, and most historians are fair when they tell their stories. Most of them are. You want to know that truth. You want to know because, like you said, we're from that.
And we're going to stop it right there. He talked a little bit about how Black newspapers were kind of willing to go along with the mainstream media's narrative. and write stories that were unfavorable towards our Black leaders. Um, and once the black papers ran the stories, then the white papers ran it shortly thereafter and said, hey, so if the black papers are writing about it, it must be true. When in actuality, it said that they wrote the story and it was just reprinted. I would like to think that journalism has transcend those times, but then we're right back at square one. And it's not just Black media anymore. It's the white mainstream media, corporate America media, however you want to refer to them. The narrative is no longer about being newsworthy. And my thing is this: if you're going to be a commentary 24 hours a day, don't call it news. Don't refer to it as news, because you're no longer telling the news. You're giving your spiel, like what we're doing right now. This is our narrative. Now, when we go out there and do news and it's fair, then we got a news station. But right now, you guys, it's no longer the news. It's catch and kill. We're gonna come out and act like we're gonna cover Mr. Jeremy Houston's story, and we're gonna put it on the shelf, right? This is what we're seeing across this state, not just happening in Mississippi, but across the world. And we found that out when Donald Trump's best friend, who was over the National Enquirer, told us that it is called a catch and kill scheme. So whenever something bad comes across, he would purchase the story and put it on the shelf. But just imagine people with legitimate newsworthy material. You're going to their press conferences, but you're not covering the story. Talk a little bit about it, guys.
So you go ahead, Jeremy.
I've seen it from the Republican side, or from Fox News, and I've seen it from MSNBC. So where they're both biased toward whatever party they are, because I'm sure, they can hype up everything wrong that Donald Trump can do, but they'd never hype up the wrongness that Joe Biden or Barack Obama or Kamala Harris would do. Because it was looked at like, oh, they're for the people, but they were putting in policies and things that didn't help benefit no one. Sending money over to Ukraine, that was looked at like a good thing. But then you got homeless veterans out here in Houston begging for quarters. So
you better say
it. Sense to me.
Yes.
So yeah, the news information that we've had all the way from the 1700s until now has always been biased in a way. Like what he was saying about the Jackson Advocate. I saw in your video what you said about the Jackson Advocate, about there's no place in the museum. I don't know I've been in the Civil Rights Museum quite a few times. I know there are quite a few newspapers, but I think they are more focused on in the Civil Rights Museum just getting the story right and making sure that the historical value of who they're talking about is right, no matter, and that it makes sense. And describing that person. So this just something that we have to face here in America. As long as we're going to be here, it's going to always be that way. That's what I feel.
Sister Felicia, he said we must always tell the truth. Well, first of all, we have to get the definition of what is the person you're talking to. What's their definition of the word truth, right?
Right. So I think that this, just like everything else we've talked about, it leads back to the mindset of individuals and what we, not only what we allow, but what we seek. And I think because we as humans in America in particular seek sensationalism, we seek those things that are quick. And again, critical thinking is not something that's widespread or pushed. That's an unfortunate thing.
It is.
Our microwave mindset coupled with it in this day and time, we take on things and we run with it. So whatever narrative is necessary for the person who holds the purse strings is what's going to be distributed. And as Jeremy said, as you said, this is nothing new, unfortunately, right? Propaganda, it's been put out for years and years and years across the world to serve the purpose of supporting the narrative of whoever it is that's putting it out there wants the world to adopt. So with that being said, and speaking of it on a local level, I too ran for office, and I'll never forget hearing about the person who I ran against getting an endorsement from a particular newspaper. And I spoke with someone who was working with that paper, and he just simply told me, he said, Felicia, you didn't pay the cost. He said, you didn't pay. I said, and that's what I said. What are you saying? He said, everybody knows whoever pays this amount is who's going to get the endorsement. I said, so heaven forbid that an actual newspaper actually look at the history of a person. Heaven forbid that, right? So that's on the newspaper side. But as individuals, we do the exact same thing when we talk to our neighbors or our friends. When we endorse a candidate, it may not be publicized and it may not have been proven, but some of us actually sit in a club next to people. Some of these, we can say, some of these accusations we know are true. Some of us have been friends with a person who's caught that black eye. Some of us have been friends with a person who's been on trial and it never went there, okay? Some of us have been the cousin or the sister or the brother or the mother of someone who was killed, and the person who did the killing never went to trial because of who they were related to, or who was able to get paid, or what clique they were a part of.
That's right.
So yeah, and the first thing that someone will say is, that's not proven. You're right, it's not proven, just like many things aren't. But when we know in our community, and shame on us for allowing it and not having people at newspapers or whoever to be held accountable for those things. So again, it goes back to shame on us for what we allow. Right now, we have a judge, an elected judge, who was sworn in December of 2022. 2 cases, 1, 2. Only 2 cases have gone through that court. Nobody says a word. Why? Because of who and whom the judge is related to. Heaven forbid you speak up. Not one advocacy group, not one black advocacy group. And you know, I talked to Jeremy, I think I've talked to you too, Sister Angela, about this. We have the black faces of white supremacy. If the definition that Francis Cress Wilson gave us is indeed truth, and that is how I describe it, this is a system. And the perpetrators on the local level often will have black faces. If a person is elected to a seat, and I don't care how fun they are at the party, I'll continue to invite you to the party and never vote for you again. High five, you inept person. In your seat. You know, we can kick it on the reservoir, but you won't get my vote, because I care about my children's children. I care about the world that is being left for them.
The legacy.
Beyond legacy. And that's another thing. We talk about legacy, and a lot of people get elected based on legacy, right? But a lot of us have negative legacies attached to us.
That's true.
And a lot of us are attached to people who did some positive things, but that doesn't mean that means that you're going to be best suited to serve in a position because of who you're connected to. But sometimes that legacy, and this is just for instance, and again, I don't know Jennifer Brandon, but this is what I do know. Anyone running for a seat that is attached to a judicial system should not make it overt or obvious that they are and shoot off dog whistles by using conservative and building a wall when they're running to be a judge. So her being connected to the people who were alleged to have killed in the land that the 3 civil rights workers in the Philadelphia area were buried on, that's one thing. But for you to have dog whistle terminology in your commercials, talking about building a wall, talking about conservative values. In a judicial seat, the only conversation you should be having is your thoughts on what is legal, what is ethical, and what is moral. That's it. Nothing else. And for anyone to do that, they should not, in my opinion, okay, this is not fact, this is Felicia's opinion. They don't deserve to be in that seat, and everyone should vigorously be making plans to take their mothers, their grandmothers, and whoever else can vote to get that absentee ballot in right now.
Jeremy, okay, guys, we have 15 minutes left. But Jeremy, I want you to talk about this picture on the screen here. We talked about it backstage. Let's talk a little bit about who this person is.
Okay. Well, you have here on the screen, this is Olin Burge. Olin Burge was a part was indicted for the 1964 civil right Mississippi burning killings of James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Mickey Schwerner. He was the one who had owned the land that these three men were buried in that dam that they were buried in. Well, he told the FBI and other people, other law enforcement agencies that he didn't know that they came and buried those three people in that unearthed or in that dam. And once they were able to dig him up, the FBI knew that he was lying at the time. So yeah, he eventually lived the rest of his days out. Was acquitted for it and everything. Lived the rest of his days out as a free man, similar to Noah Smith, who killed Lamar Smith in 1955, or similar to Carolyn Bryan Smith, who told the biggest lie in American history that sparked the movement that we talk about so much, and countless others who committed crimes against Black humanity, especially in our state of Mississippi. And I look at him as I would look at Byron D. LeBeck, boy, as I would look at Red Glover, or as I would look at what was the man who killed Clinton Milton. I would look at them how I see but I also see in that time frame, how do we not let something like that happen again, and how do we hold people who commit crimes against Black humanity, especially in our state of Mississippi? How do we hold them accountable?
Wow.
And I heard you all say something about holding these political people accountable for their actions, but we got to also have an agenda on what we want.
That's
a lot of times we as Black people, we just sit up there and say, we just gonna vote for him because he's gonna make a change. But when they get in their office, they're not thinking about you. But if you hold their feet to the fire, they'll think about you and say, hey, we'll elect yourself up out of here.
Yes.
I have a video I want to play here. Give me just a second. And it's about those three civil rights workers. Give me just a minute.
The FBI today arrested 21 white men in connection with last summer's murder of 3 civil rights workers in Mississippi. That is the latest development in the drama that began to unfold months ago with the Mississippi Summer Project. Hundreds of young people were trained and sent to Mississippi, there to instruct Negroes in a variety of subjects, including the exercise of constitutional rights. The project was bitterly resented by many white Mississippians, and it was no surprise when last June 3 of the civil rights workers disappeared. 2 were white New Yorkers, Michael Schwerner, 24, whose wife was also in Mississippi, Andrew Goodman, a student at Queens College in New York. Goodman was 21. And the third was James Chaney, a Negro from Meridian. Chaney also was 21. The 3 had gone from Meridian to Philadelphia, Mississippi, to look at a burned-out Negro church. Deputy Sheriff in Philadelphia, Cecil Price, said later that he had arrested them for speeding and released them after 6 hours. They got in the car and said they were going to Meridian, Mississippi. Got in the police car with the city policeman. We followed them several blocks to be sure that they did go that way. And last we saw them, they were going down 19 south towards Meridian. Yeah, we turned around and come back up in the business part of the time. And to admit seeing them alive, and he was among those arrested today. When the FBI entered the case, it found the station wagon that Cheney, Schwerner, and Goodman had used. It had been burned. Then in August, the FBI found the bodies, reportedly after paying $25,000 for the necessary information. Today came the arrests.
The suspects were taken to the seclusion of the Meridian Auxiliary Naval Air Station south of Philadelphia. Flanked by FBI men and quickly joined by their attorneys, the suspects were brought in two groups. The first group included Sheriff Lawrence Rainey and his deputy, Cecil Price, both men in uniform. The bill of complaint signed by an FBI agent and read to the accused men by Miss Carter charges the arrest of the murdered civil rights workers with a planned affair. Deputy Price was named specifically as having used the clear of his office in taking in the trio on a traffic charge, holding them, then turning them loose to be intercepted, threatened, assaulted, shot, and killed. Those are the words of the complaint. By nightfall, all of those arraigned as a group had made bond and were free pending next week's court appearance. Sheriff Rainey and his deputy returned to Philadelphia to resume their law enforcement duties there.
It sounds like it said they went on back to work.
Oh, yeah, of course. Are you surprised?
Sound like it said they went on back to their law enforcement duties.
I asked you, are you surprised? Are you
No.
surprised in 1964?
No.
So, yeah, of course they went back to work, but eventually time came, to where they had to be, persecuted for them crimes that they committed.
Well,
So
these people have family members.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do.
Who, Sister Felicia talked about the legacy, beyond the legacy. The people who are engulfed in law enforcement, right? They are they're entrenched in politics, and they're judges, lawyers, doctors across the board. They have families.
Right.
And I imagine some of them are embarrassed that this happened. But a lot of them, if we're honest, are proud of their heritage.
Yeah,
and these are the ones who fought to keep the flag. And I said, let them keep their flag, because that way we know who they are.
Right.
It's interesting you bring up the flag. Again, we talk about a lot of the travesties and the symbols that existed in which these travesties occurred under, and which some of those who committed those travesties held so much pride in that particular symbol. Well, again, we have a person right now who's in a runoff for the Mississippi Supreme Court justice seat who voted to keep that flag.
Are you sure?
And she also voted to not expand health care. And we know how many Negroes need health care in Mississippi.
But let me tell you something. When running for a judgeship, because I've helped with those type of campaigns, you don't gravitate towards saying certain red flag words like build a wall. I've not seen the commercial because I don't watch TV. You don't say stuff like, because I was always told that you can't say what you're going to do because it's case by case. And a judge is not supposed to be out there matter-of-factly saying that, hey, I'm a conservative. But welcome to Mississippi. Now, to me, these are allegations because I've not heard her say it. What'd you say?
I said, hey, welcome to America. But again, this is where we have the power to step up and say that this is not going to be the reflection of what we're willing to stand for. And we get to say that with our vote. And, shame on us again, those of us who receive money to educate people as it pertains to elections and those who are running for seats. Shame on any of us who aren't doing our due diligence to make sure that not only ourselves, but those around us are informed, whether you get paid for that or not. But again, this lends back to not everyone who looks like you cares about what is inflicted upon you when you don't
Let's
have enough money, okay,
but
to
let's go
avoid
back.
certain consequences.
But let's back up for a second, because this ticket has two what we would consider white people. Now I don't know the origins of the name Kitchens or the origins of the other name. They could be Irish. I don't know. But you know they go as white. But these people are not black people. So how do you know then who to choose from? And now on my timeline, I see black attorneys who say Kitchens is the way to go. That they've worked for him, they know him personally, but who is Kitchens really? You know what I mean? Like, who is this guy?
So let me take a step back on something that you said, because this is my stance. I don't believe, I do believe that we're at a point where we realize now that just because we see a black face does not mean that that's the check where the check mark should go, because we have people who look like us who are our enemies. We have a lot of people who, if they were characters in Uncle Tom's Cabin, would be Sambo. We have a lot of people who, if they were a character on Django Unchained, would be Stephen. So I think it's very, very important for us to recognize that and not solely go based on having shared race as it pertains to a box, because all
Now,
kinfolk ain't kinfolk.
we had Ciola James who ran, and a lot of people were not happy about that. Because they say, well, she split the vote. Well, I say if she wants to put her name on there and run, we don't know if she prayed and God told her to do it. We don't know, right? And so she did what she felt was best for her. So I don't agree with that.
I don't either. This is a democracy, and we have the picks and chooses of when it is. Who is it to say who it is? If we're not unified enough to even do block voting, how dare you even bring up a split vote? Split vote. What does that even mean? Who are you for me to have enough faith in your decision as to who should be on the ballot? Okay, so let's work on that first. I don't believe in it, and every time I hear people say it, I just really don't even engage in the conversation. Because if you work hard enough to educate the voting populace, there aren't that many people in Mississippi on the grander scale of things now. So if we really broke it down, we could educate people more on who these people are on the ballot. And also, as individuals, we should be educating ourselves.
Gotcha.
Period.
I want to play a little more of Jared Mitchell because he's getting ready to talk about the book. Give me a second, guys. Let's get this going.
In a compelling way, but also embedded within that is the history, and so people can read that and learn from it.
And you have the black and white picture there.
Yep, that's from the FBI files. It's never been published before, but I had the photo, which is a photo of the burned out station wagon. This was the station wagon the 3 civil rights workers were traveling in when the Klan caught them.
No way.
Yeah, and then of course killed them, and then they tried to conceal the evidence, so they burned the station wagon. And the FBI found it a few days later. It was completely burned out. I mean, all the seats, it was just a shell, essentially. But I thought to me this was such a powerful picture, and I don't know that I feel fortunate in a sense of I actually picked out this picture to be the cover of the book. So that's pretty rare. I mean, from what I'm hearing from other authors, so I feel very fortunate. And I think they did a fantastic job with it. I think it's a very compelling cover. I'm very grateful.
The name. Race Against Time. When I hear that, I think about the 3 decades, almost 3 decades, right?
Exactly.
And what happens is most people pass away, and it's like, man, we gotta get to this person before. What was the name behind Race Against Time? I'm just guessing.
Well, I mean, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. I mean, I obviously it's a play on words, and sometimes play on words don't really work for titles, but I thought it did.
Mm-hmm.
And my publisher, interestingly, when he heard the titles, like, well, I don't like 95% of titles, but I like your title. So, and there was never a debate about the title of the book, which I was grateful for.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
But I like the play. You know, obviously got race involved in this story, and then time. You're right. It is indeed a race against time because a lot of these guys are dying, and,
Mm-hmm.
and even to this day, you know, the Emmett Till case and other cases.
That's right.
We've got suspects maybe who are alive and
Mm-hmm.
dying, and witnesses and things like that.
And so, with that being said, man, when I tell you this book is so awesome, I love history, and we could go on and on and on about some of the cases. And I do want to talk about the most racist person you'd ever met.
Byron Deal Beckwith.
Yeah.
The killer of Medgar Evers. The killer of Medgar Evers. Byron Deal Beckwith.
We've got to talk about him because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's one of the first people that you introduce us to in the book.
No, yeah, he's pretty early. Yeah. So
Yeah.
He kind of, really in retrospect, I'm very grateful I met him when I met him because I didn't really know anything about this white supremacist world that he belonged to. And so I spent about so he talked about certain people. Like he talked about Richard Butler, for example, which would necessarily be a name most people know, but Richard Butler was the head of Aryan Nations, which is one of the most violent white supremacist organization. They were the ones that were responsible for assassinating a disc jockey in Denver, stealing $millions from a Brinks truck. I mean, all these other, events, that they were connected with, in terms of violence. But I didn't know and then when Medgar was assassinated, then Charles came and took his place. Yeah.
Yes. And he had some words that he said. But anyway.
Yeah, no, Charles was, he and Medgar were different in a lot of ways. I mean, Medgar was very, a little more stoic and careful about his words. And Charles, just whatever came to his mind, he said it.
You're going to hear it. Now, did he go on to become a mayor?
He did. It was the first black mayor of a multiracial town. Yeah, in Mississippi. Yeah.
Mississippi. And let me call another name. Richard Barrett.
Oh my gosh. White supremacist who I can say
attorney.
Yeah, he was an attorney. Yeah, he was an attorney.
That's right.
And Richard's like I almost could devote a whole book to Richard. He's a really bizarre character, and it's pretty obvious in the book. I mean, if not, I don't mind giving it away. I mean, Richard became a very valuable source of mine. I mean, he would tell me what was happening. He told me when Beckwith sent him this letter and let me make a copy of the letter, and then there ended up being this court hearing over it. Beckwith got in trouble essentially over it. It was just very fascinating. Anyway. Now,
is this the letter where he sent people who could possibly be a juror?
Yeah, potential jurors. They basically sent them out everywhere in the county so that people who were potential jurors would read it, and it was basically telling them to acquit Beckwith in the Medgar Evers case.
Now, Lloyd Jones.
Oh my goodness.
Now, let me ask you this. Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Was he the most notorious sheriff in the state of Mississippi, or he was one of them?
Well, one of them, maybe there's one that I don't know of, that was more notorious. but he was certainly one of them. His reputation was formed because of what he did as a highway patrolman in the 60s and early 70s. He apparently, I think it was him, shot Ben Brown in the back. That was a guy that was literally just walking across campus when there was a standoff between police and students and protesters, essentially, in 67, and shot Ben Brown in the back. I think he probably was the one that did it. Can't say it, but I'm pretty sure.
Was he a trooper at that time?
Yeah. Shot him in the back with shotgun.
Where was he? Where were they at that? Where did this happen?
There was kind of a gap in between the crowd. The protesters were throwing rocks and stuff like that, and then the police were, you had Jackson police, and then you had the highway patrol.
James Meredith,
first known black man to attend the University of Mississippi. There was a black man who.
Can't hear you.
I know you guys are we're pressed for time and it's after 10. And so what I'm going to do is keep going with the show. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on. He did talk about Lloyd Jones. Isn't he the Goon Squad guy?
You said Lloyd Jones?
Yes, I think that's where Goon they call him Goon.
I think so. And I'm glad you brought up the Goon Squad again, because when people talk about it, they only think about the ones who were locked up, who were sent with this most recent thing. But that was something that was long standing, had multiple officers who were a part of that. Okay. And it was, again, another one of these known knowns that people went along with because those in the community knew about it. Okay. Sheriffs knew about it, but it was allowed. And so at the end of the day, this goes back to another reason why accountability of the betrayers of our race, because we have those who look like us who are betrayers among us.
Okay.
Holding them accountable is just that much more important.
Wow.
Because we have to be able to identify who stands with us, like in real time, so that we can have progress. We can no longer allow people to be elected based on blackness who have nothing in store but building their own bank account.
Jerry Mitchell is dropping jewels here, and he's not making no apologies about it. Okay. Jeremy, I know you're familiar with Jerry Mitchell. Talk a little bit about Jerry Mitchell before you go.
Well, I know he helped us out down in Natchez, and with the case of Ben Chester White, who was
Tell us who that is. Tell us who Ben Chester White is.
Ben Chester White was a black man who lived in Natchez, Mississippi, or lived in Adams County, Mississippi, who was he wasn't involved in no civil rights activity, period. He was just an old man who was a sharecropper, and he helped he helped with the conviction of his killers, and his killers, Ernest Avance, eventually went to prison for the death of Ben Chester White, and Jerry Mitchell played a big role in coming down to Natchez and getting stories and getting information for Mr. Ben Chester White's justice. And so, down in Natchez, which is a lot of people in Mississippi don't know nothing about Southwest Mississippi.
No, it's rare. It's rare.
Oh yeah. So, and down there as well, what shaped the fighting attitude of Black Mississippians in Jackson and in the Delta and places like that, because they saw the examples of Black Mississippians down there in Natchez, Fayette, Port Gibson, and Warren County, and Wilkinson County, and Lincoln County, and places like that. And others say, well, we can do it too. So
listen, it's places in Mississippi that I have not even had an opportunity. Let me get back in here. That I've not even had an opportunity to visit. And
Mm-hmm.
you said, name those counties again.
Adams County, Jefferson
Hmm.
County, Cleveland County, Warren County,
I've
Wilkerson
been to
County.
Claiborne. Warren, I've been there. Um,
Well,
man, anything past Alcorn, I don't know. You see what I'm saying?
well,
Because,
well,
but it's more to it. And Mississippi has rich history. And speaking of Natchez, I believe Natchez is where the state's capital was at one point, right?
yeah, it was the first
That's
capital
right.
in Mississippi.
That's
I
right.
know
And I
what
think it
I
was.
know what the old Capitol building is.
Oh wow.
It's somebody's home now.
What? And
It's
see,
called Tejada.
it's a lot of people don't know that. They don't know because guess what? If it's not on TikTok in a form in to a tune or something like that, we don't pay attention to it. So we have to be edutained, if you will. We have to educate and entertain all at the same time. And that's how we get our people involved. And I'm not against it. I'm not against it. And if
No, it
we
is.
really want to reach our black and brown people, guess what? And even talking about the Alamo and things like that, we have to make certain that we make a concerted effort to educate our people. Not say, oh, they lazy, they don't know, they just dumb, they don't want to know. No, no, no. If we put it where they could eat it, and say, you know what, I don't eat this all the time, but you know what, I can eat it a little bit, and
I'm
then they'll
sim-
begin to regurgitate what they've learned.
similar to what I would do like when I lived in Natchez. I knew a lot of the guys in the streets,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I knew the ones who were doing all the criminal activity known to mankind. But I
Hmm.
could go right up there and walk up to them and say, hey man, did you know that this area right here was this? Did you know that this was that? Man, I ain't never know that. They ain't never tell us that at school. I
That's
know they
right.
didn't.
That's
And
right.
so, and then I would have the bourgeoisie Negroes who would say, why you go over there talking to them guys about that? They need to know this because then they would, this would be fun. I'll go back over there again to a neighborhood or whatever. And they go, Jerry, hey, come here, Jerry, come
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Hey, tell them about what happened right here. Tell them.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, if we had more people to be able to do that and not going over to where they at to just ridicule or
Yes.
criticize them for what they're
Yes.
doing, that
Yes.
would make a whole lot of difference because I saw even in the time of testing where I almost lost my life in the street. One guy even told me, he said, when he had the gun up to my face, like, man, I'm sorry, Jeremy Houston, man, I'm sorry, bro. I ain't know
Wow.
that was
Wow.
you, man.
Wow.
And that was
Wow.
off the fact of just being in the streets and
Hmm.
not trying to go by no agenda,
Yes.
not trying to wait on the Mississippi Department of Education to put something in a history book about me. I
Right.
went out there and took that time up to say, I'm gonna go to the streets and tell them about their history because that's gonna create a dialogue among them.
That's right. And now they're talking to each other. And guess what? AI. All you got to do now is talking to your phone. Let's see if that joker lying. He might be lying. You know.
Mhm.
Uh. And they find out you're not. And boom, there's more street cred
And
for
not
you.
and not only take documents over there. Take and
Oh
say, look
wow.
at this, man. Read it right there, man. You can
Yeah.
read?
Yeah.
Yeah. Read it right here. Oh man, where you found it at? Well, down at the Historic Natural Foundation or at the
Yeah.
Mississippi Department of Archives and History.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or is it? And come here, look, it's right there on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I ain't even know that. You've been
Mm-hmm.
walking through it your whole life. So
Yep.
if we stop being so scared of each other and be able to go and educate each other on the things that happened before us, I promise you we'll have a better outlook on what's going to happen in the future.
You mentioned bourgeoisie. For those who don't know what that is, break it down.
Oh, the bourgeoisie, those are the well-off ones who, you know,
Intellectuals.
well, yeah, somewhat,
Yeah.
who,
Yeah.
you know, the ones
I
who
got
I'm
mine.
more than that. Yeah, I got mine, so you better get yours.
Mm-hmm.
And to a certain degree, I don't blame them because if
Mm.
you come from a shack a one-room shack and
You don't want to
six to
go back
seven
to
of your,
that. You don't want
yeah,
to go
you don't
back to
want to go
that.
back to that. But
Right.
you also want, the thing where they mess up is where they get a chance to get a pat on their head from the white man or get a hug from the white man, and then, the things of the past and where they come from, they like, I'm never going back to it. And I understand where they come from, but it's also a few, or maybe 3 or 4, or maybe even 10 who want to see you, and you will be an example to them to say, hey, we're going to change this. And out of that 10, 2 of them might say, we're going to stay here and change this.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Right. And I think once we get past the I need the approval of a white man or white woman or whomever, I think we're gonna be okay.
Yeah, because
That's
I
one of the
think,
things our pastor talked about Sunday. It's not about getting the approval or leaving the state of Mississippi so you can go to be a better person. You God has us where he wants us at
mm-hmm,
this moment in time so that we
right,
can do what's necessary for the kingdom. Now, I don't know how you worship and who you serve, but the thing about it is we have to answer to somebody, brother. We have
mm-hmm,
to be accountable to somebody. And while we're here, let's make the place a little bit better than what we found it. You know what I'm
mm-hmm.
saying?
I would say let's be accountable to ourselves. Quit trying to be accountable to someone who don't want you to be accountable to them anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So be accountable to yourself and make sure that you know, because you know it's right. Just like y'all say
Yes.
about
Do the right thing. Yes.
yeah, because it's the truth and it's right. And
Mm-hmm.
it's people who came before us who
Mm-hmm.
laid the groundwork for us to be able to do the things we do. Like I used to tell Charles Evans, for example. I
Uh-huh.
used to go every time I went to 90.1, I used to go
Mm-hmm.
there and say, thank you, Mr. Evans.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for 2 things. Thank you for being able to have the balls and the testicular fortitude to stand
Mm-hmm.
up to the Ku Klux Klan in Natchez, Mississippi. And
Yes.
also, thank you for becoming the mayor of Fayette, Mississippi, because you did that. You opened up opportunity for my grandfather and my daddy that they'd never have. And I've got a chance to walk through Natchez, Mississippi. I ain't never had the pleasure of getting off the sidewalk for no white person in Natchez,
Oh,
ever.
wow. Wow.
And I've never, and even since I came back from the military, I always was, hey, what we gonna do? I ain't
Mm-hmm.
worried about what the Pilgrim and Garden Club gonna do. I ain't worried about what downtown gonna do. What we gonna do to make this change? How we gonna put up and showcase our history? And when we do that, then they gonna respect you. Then they
Wow.
gonna come. Then, matter of fact, them very people who you trying to get approval with will come down and bow before you and kiss your feet.
Come on. Because
Come
they
on.
trying to figure out what are we waiting on? What's our problem? What's going Let me tell you, resources are available. Guess what? They want to give you these resources. They just don't
Yeah.
want them to be trampled. You see what I'm saying?
Well,
And if
when we were in Natchez, for
Mhm,
example, I was we started in 2016. We put up on one of our historical streets called St. Catherine Street. We put
mhm.
up historical markers that told about the African American history. It's called the Natchez Walking Trail, and this was phase 2 of it.
Wow.
Because, and then I opened up Miss Lou Heritage. I started to bring tourists all into, they were coming to see me from everywhere. Jackson, they were coming from
Yeah,
Colorado, they were coming from Canada,
yeah,
the United Kingdom.
yeah,
All of a sudden, they started 2 years later in 2018, they said, let's have a meet, let's start having these focus groups
yeah.
on how we can improve it. We see Jeremy out here with a civil rights tour. We see Jeremy out here with a heritage tour. So
Mm-hmm.
then now, 8 years later, after I got started, now St. Catherine Street got a $24 million grant that's coming to it for to improve the whole street,
Whoa.
for to improve the whole historical street, revitalize it to make it an African American site. They even at the end we got the triangle. They're gonna call it Hiram Revels Plaza after the first African American senator in the country.
Senator, yes.
Yeah, so well, he preached there right up there at Design Chapel AME Church when he
Come
became
on.
United States Senator. So
Come on.
because I took the sacrifice and took that, not necessarily a sacrifice, took the initiative to
Uh-huh.
say, hey, our history is important. Now that I'm gone away from Natchez, now they're putting things into place that I had been telling them, this need to be done, this need to be done, but it wouldn't have been done if people like myself, Brian McKnight, Shabilla Minor, Greg Miles, Greg Robinson if we wouldn't have put our minds together and said, hey, we're gonna make this happen for our city. And now we got different people in position who want to make this thing happen. And so it's only gonna get even better.
Let
And
me
I
ask
will,
you. Let me ask you something. You see how you want to preserve your history, Black history, our history.
Mhm.
What was your stance when it came to the flag?
Oh, get rid of it.
Why?
Oh, get rid of it and let's start, because I had been in the military, for example. And when
Okay.
they put all of the colors, I remember this was very embarrassing and it hurt me. This
Okay.
hurt my feelings real bad.
Uh-huh.
We were sitting in we had a Marine Corps change of guard.
Uh-huh.
We had a new commander coming in for our unit where we was in. And they had every state flag up. And you
Yeah.
know what and I saw the Mississippi flag and they said, some of the Marines were saying, well, what flag is that with the Confederate flag? Those, whatever flag is that, some racist mother, you know, whatever.
Oh, wow.
And I couldn't even, I knew that was my state flag. And I wouldn't even say nothing. I just was quiet. I just put my head down. And I said, I felt that that's one of the only times I ever felt ashamed about being from Mississippi.
Oh, wow.
Because I knew what that stood for. And I heard some of the white boys in formation saying, yeah, man, we need to have the American flag look like that. Wow.
Wow.
And so that's the time. That's why I felt when them sisters came to Natchez, I
Yeah.
remember when they came. And look, I
Yeah.
remember when we took the flag down. We took the flag down off every public building in Adams County because them two sisters came and did that rally in Natchez in 2016. And I got the flyer with my picture and different other people who dead and gone now.
Yeah.
And we had a rally. We talked about why we wanted that flag gone and everything. We had a board, Adams County Board of Supervisor meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And they, Ricky Gray, Supervisor Ricky Gray said, I want to make a proposal or whatever he said that we take down every flag, Confederate flag or state flag down off Adams County bill. It won 3-2.
Wow.
And when that board meeting was over with, right after it was over with, they went and started taking them flags down.
Oh, wow.
And so
Wow.
that's why I was glad. And I say, and just like what they did in Fayette, Mississippi, they took down that Confederate statue and that was in the town
That was the
square.
next thing I was going to ask you about the statues. Now, Attorney Carlos Moore played a major part. I mean, sticking his neck out, saying, remove the flag, remove the flag. I remember bringing him on my radio show and telling him, hey, why do you, the people are going to think something is wrong with you because I hear them say that this black man is fighting a flag. And he was adamant about the flag being removed. When people talk about the flag, they say, hey, they lost that war. And they're still angry about a war that they will never get a chance to win because the war is over with. Right?
And then
And so,
black men whoop your tail for the win the war.
oh, wow.
It was
And
black
so,
men who Martin
and so
Luther
they're
King ain't
saying,
liberate me.
they say they're still bitter about a war that they didn't win. And so on this interview with Jerry Mitchell, he said because Jerry Mitchell is not a native to Mississippi, he's from Texas. And a
Right.
lot of people don't know that. But Jerry said he told him, what war are you talking about? He didn't know. He thought they were talking about the Revolutionary War.
The
He
lost
said
cause.
they were talking about the war between the North and the South. He was like, man, where we're from in Texas, we don't even talk about that stuff, you know? But that's why when he talks about the racism in the state of Mississippi, that he was able to engulf himself in with the white supremacist groups and things like that. It was an eye opener to him, even as a white man. And I believe Byron D. LeBeckwith probably thought that Jerry Mitchell, because he was a white man, was just like him, right?
Yeah,
But
he
Jerry
was.
Mitchell is the one, he's the news reporter. I like to tell people he's the investigative news reporter who would not go away. He just wouldn't go away. And Jerry Mitchell loves truth. And he's gonna investigate that thing until
Mhm.
he gets it right. Right. And
And,
so
and one
that's
thing,
one thing I can appreciate about him as a white journalist, because a lot of them won't go out on a limb like Jerry did.
that that flag was doing, it was preventing economic opportunities from coming to Mississippi. Man, people start saying if you follow it when they had the flag, the SEC, Southeastern Conference football. We know how big that is in the South. They start
Yes.
saying, "Hey man, we're gonna stop playing. We're gonna stop coming to Mississippi."
South Carolina had to give it up. They gave it
Mhm.
up. I think Mississippi was the last state.
Yeah, we were.
South Carolina gave it up. They're like, hey, we need our economics, we need commerce, we need people coming here, we need them spending money with us. Hey, we gotta let this
Mhm.
flag go.
Yeah,
Right?
we gotta let it go.
And
And
Miss
just like we talked about the Confederate statues, I was
Mhm.
glad that they took that one down in Fayette because I called the mayor of Fayette as soon as they took it down. I said, "Oh, praise the Lord! Now y'all can be free in Fayette finally."
Yeah.
But uh, in a way, it's a catch-22 about that because I said if we got those Confederate statues that still are up, and I know why they up, you know what I'm saying? Hey, where are our statues of Medgar Evers? Where are our statues of Bob Moses and Fannie Lou Hamer and Rudy Shields and Charles Evers and Wallace Jackson? Where are our statues of those people and John Roy Lynch? We need to put more statues. If they're gonna put more statues
And,
keep them up, we need to make more of
and
ours.
so that's my point exactly. So as black people, we can still preserve our history, right?
Yeah, we can.
And I believe we should. And I
Mm-hmm.
know there's monies available for statues. We got the Emmett Till statue, thanks to Senator Jordan, David Jordan in
Mm-hmm.
Greenwood, Mississippi.
Yep.
And so we got statues finally going up. And the thing is,
And Medgar Evers had one at Alcorn.
oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, Medgar Evers has one.
Because that's his
Fannie Lou,
alma mater.
yeah, Fannie Lou Hamer has one in her grave. So,
We- They're coming up. And so my thing is this. History, like Jerry Mitchell was saying, regardless of how ugly it may be, even with the hard stories in the Bible, it's some hard stories in there, but they serve a purpose. And so I know I might, maybe this is me as a journalist saying, let them keep their history. Let them keep their, I was saying let them keep their flag. At least we know who they are and where they stand. Well, we got a lot of people in Mississippi say when they see that flag, it make them sick to their stomach. It's
oh yeah.
embarrassing. And it's the face of racism, and it shows the old South, and that we're not the old South anymore. But I said, at least we know who we're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
But taking the flag down didn't change the hearts of the people who were waving the flag, because they still wave that flag, right?
Oh yeah,
It's
they
just
still
not
do.
over the state buildings and things like that
Yeah,
anymore.
because I feel like it brought a certain attitude. It brought
Mm,
a certain attitude that yeah, you in say you a black man, you in handcuffs and you about to walk up into that with that Confederate flag. It almost give you the feeling like I'm getting ready to go to the lynching. I'm about to get lynched.
wow. Have
I'm
you
about to
heard
get.
have you heard of the stories? Because I would always wonder, why are the courthouses, most courthouses, right next to rivers, right? And they said after they would lynch people, they would just shoot them out into the river. And I don't know how true that is, but
I
it's so
never
many,
never
so
heard
many
that one.
stories. Huh?
I never heard that one,
Yes, they said
but
they
I
would
wouldn't
shoot them
doubt
out.
it.
Yeah, yeah. And so we got some courthouses off of the rivers and close to tributaries. And I always wonder, why are they so close to the rivers? But anyway,
Mhm.
those are just allegations.
Yes,
And
man.
it's 10:28. I don't want to hold you, man. I am truly enjoying this conversation.
Oh yeah, I do this. I eat,
This
sleep. I do this all
ha-
day, all night.
this HB. How do you feel about HBC hold on. How do you feel about where the HBCUs are right now? Do you think they should unite those schools?
No.
Why?
I think because each one of them has his own uniqueness to the black culture in Mississippi. Alcorn has its uniqueness because of Hiram Rose Revels and Mega Evans, and each one. Jackson State has its uniqueness because of Henry Jacobs and other people who fought and made sure it happened, and Mississippi Valley and Tougaloo. So I don't think they should be. I think they should be equally funded, just as Ole Miss and Mississippi State and Southern Miss are, and William
Well, you know,
Carey and all that.
they bringing in money. See, they say their alumni pay back. Their alumni is good to the school that they graduate from.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. But we know state money is being pushed into those universities. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's just how much is being pushed in it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Brother, thank you so much. You cannot be a stranger to this platform.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, like, yeah, that's cool, and I'm gonna tell you, like the great Tupac Shakur said, in the next year or so or whatever, picture me rolling, because you're gonna see us rolling all through Mississippi.
Awesome, awesome. And so, talk a little bit about your tours and how they can find you.
Pretty soon. Well, right now we're getting everything developed, but
Okay.
you'll be able to find us through social media, of course.
Okay.
And the tours that we'll be offering will be like one of the tours that we'll have a specialized tour for the state of Mississippi called the Mississippi Heritage Experience.
Okay.
So it'll be a 6-day, 5-night tour of the whole state of Mississippi, starting in Jackson and ending in Jackson.
Now, when you say heritage, are you talking about Black heritage?
Of course.
So it's a Mississippi Black Heritage Tour.
Yeah, but we don't want to call it Mississippi Black Tour. And the reason why is because we want to make sure that we can be able to profit from it, because I know if I had, say,
it's limited. Mm-hmm.
And it's wording, you know what I'm saying? We don't want to limit ourselves, you know what I'm saying, among potential customers.
And my thing about it now, you got to remember, we have some good white people who helped us along the way.
Oh, of course.
So we don't want to discredit their contribution
to
the Black community.
You just brought up, you got two people who just died. You talking about Andrew Goodman and Mickey Schwarm.
Mm-hmm.
They were, I'm sure they were some of the coolest white dudes ever.
I bet you they were from New York.
They didn't have to come down to no Mississippi. They could have stayed up there in New York and been living their best life. But because they wanted to make sure that, because they knew what was going on in Mississippi, and they wanted to have a helping hand, they came down there and they lost their lives. And they parents, Andrew Goodman mama and Mickey Schwarm mama, even wanted to bury them two beside James James. But because the laws of Mississippi say, oh no, no Negroes beside no white people.
Can't do that. Can't do that. Yeah. Now, let's shift gears right quick.
Okay.
This what do you call it when they write this last little letter before they die?
Will or last testament.
Listen, we're going over to Malcolm X now. And the person who was playing a part in what happened in his death wrote this last statement, and it has opened the door for the family to now go in and sue New York Police Department, the FBI, the CIA. We were told a different narrative about who murdered Malcolm X.
Yeah, we were told the Nation of Islam murdered.
That's what we were told, his own people.
But
it is said that right before he died, it is said that his security people were locked up, snatched away from around him, right before it was time. So he didn't have security, to check the door and, see what was going to happen. This stuff was done strategically.
Oh, yeah.
And when I think about Malcolm, I cannot leave J. Edgar Hoover out. Now, there's a woman I've interviewed on my platform who
Okay.
says that J. Edgar Hoover is her cousin and he passed for white all of his life,
Oh
adult
yeah,
life.
I've heard that too.
And so he hated, seemingly, the very thing that made him great, for the white people. He exterminated our leaders. You see what I'm saying? That Malcolm was not murdered by someone from the Nation of Islam. Now, he was criticized openly by the people from the Nation of Islam. They divorced him once he found out certain things, and he was the mouthpiece. It took his newspaper. I mean, it's a lot of things that they did, but they didn't kill him.
Oh no, and they even the FBI, when they would say that they were passing hate mail to him, and they said that the nation was telling them that he was going. FBI had infiltrated the Nation of Islam.
Had already done it.
Yeah, and they were making it seem like Elijah Muhammad would be sending Malcolm death threats or whatever, and Elijah Muhammad was sending him no death threats.
You say
And
he
he wasn't sending no controversial mail to the Nation of Islam, as they tried to make it seem. So
yes,
it was the same way, like you talking about what they did to Malcolm. Didn't they do it 4 years later up in Chicago to Fred Hampton?
Yes.
And I think Fred Hampton is still a problem to this day, and his death is still one of the most feared men ever to live, black men to ever live in Mississippi. I mean, not Mississippi, in the United States. Because if you go to his grave site in Haynesville, Louisiana, his headstone always shot up.
Oh, wow. Wow. And it's all because we wanted to be treated fairly, right?
Yep.
That's all we ever wanted. We didn't listen. I don't know. I've never dated a white man. I don't know anybody. I don't run with people who say, I just got to have me a white woman. I got to be with me a white man. You know what I'm saying? We want to be left alone. We want to love our brother, have our babies and teach them the ways of life, right? And it's nothing against a white man or a white woman, but they want to preserve their race as well. If you listen to Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, she tells you the same thing about them, right? And this white supremacy thing is real. It's real because we know the black gene is the dominant gene. Well, guess what? Guess what I'm not trying to do? Run out here and have white babies. I want to have black babies. You see what I'm saying? And coexist with the white people, and others. Because if we be honest, everybody not white. This is something that they said, we're going to take the census and tweak it. We don't care for the Irish people, but we're gonna let them work to be white. Come on in, we're gonna accept you if you know how to act right? And that's just one race that they didn't like, truly didn't like. They call them know nothings. They treated them badly. But when the numbers start dwindling, and we know that the birth to death ratio is off in the white race, and David Duke tried to change the face of the KKK. He went on a campaign. I paid attention to the way, his strategy. He told the white woman, listen, you need to have babies. See, this abortion thing is not about black women. Because even when we abort our babies, we still gonna have some. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
They were pumping the Marvin Gaye into our homes. Let's get it on. They was pumping in I love music and all this type of stuff. So we knew to procreate. That was nothing for us. And even if we lost a baby, here come another one. You know what I'm saying? So David Duke's narrative was this. I would love to see more lily white girls like my own in around this nation. He begged them to have babies if they would.
And where did he get it from?
Well, I don't know. Where did he get that?
George Lincoln Rockwell.
George, say it again.
George Lincoln Rockwell.
You're going to make me go do some research. Go ahead.
George Lincoln Rockwell was saying that same philosophy. He was the leader of the American Nazi Party. That's who he was influenced by.
Was he?
Yeah, he was influenced by
Well, you know, one thing about it, I was doing research on David Duke,
him.
and he has a godson. I think his last name is Black. Went to school in Arkansas. But
Okay.
anyway, when he went off to college, he fell in love with this Jewish girl. And
Mm-hmm.
he didn't know how to tell his family. And they spoke
Right.
against being with Jewish people. And
Mm-hmm.
he said, now, one thing about David Duke that he had never, ever heard was him use the N word. He said because he was better than that. See, he was the talking head. And so he couldn't afford to slip up and say it, right? And so
Mm-hmm. Right.
the young man gave him credit for never using that word, not around him at least, you know.
Right.
And so when I think of David Duke, I think of a well-polished attorney guy who meant what he said when he said what he said. And
Right.
now
Yeah.
had his race listen, we wouldn't even have abortion on the ballot when what's his name was run when Biden and Kamala Harris were running. Now he was trying to tell them back in the 70s, the birth to death ratio is gonna be off if y'all don't go have these babies. And I ain't
Mm-hmm.
talking about babies by Latinos and blacks. He meant we got to preserve our race, and nobody in the white community was listening. Why do you say that, Angie? I say that because they wanted two children, a dog, a cat, some horses. You know what I'm saying? In a picket fence in a house on the hill.
Yeah. You
Now
ain't
that's not
lying.
every white girl because they got babies. They have them.
Yeah, they
But
do.
he was telling them, go procreate because if you don't, we're going to be a dying breed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the fear sparks from. That's what towards the blacks in the community because their white woman was being hard-headed and she don't want no baby, but now she want babies by Tyrone. And you can't tell her that she can't have children by Tyrone because guess what? She's being rebellious. And instead of listening, you're the one who is going to make your own race obsolete, white woman. It's you. Now that's my narrative, and I could be wrong. But
You ain't lying.
based on the research that I've done
You ain't lying.
On David Duke alone, he tried to warn them. He tried.
But Donald Trump had tried to try to warn them too.
He did.
I read Donald Trump book about before he ran for president. He put it. I was
Are
reading it or
you
whatever.
serious?
Yeah, Donald Trump telling them in the book. He telling them, we need to. I would like to see more white babies. He said he'd like to see women procreate more because he was
Yes.
talking about the rates of how white women weren't having babies. And
Yes.
he even brought in black women and Hispanic women in the book.
Uh-huh.
But he said specifically in the book, I like to see more of white women
Yes.
being having babies. He said it
Yes.
specifically. So,
Listen. The fight has always been, I don't know if you listen to Shahrazad Ali,
oh yes,
but
I do.
she's always said the fight was against the white woman and her man. Nothing to do
Mm-hmm.
with us because we going to do that. Let's get it on, okay? we going to
Yeah,
have some babies.
yeah.
And so if you've seen the statistics show that black women are out there having abortions more so at an alarming rate than the white women. But who's doing these statistics, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
they're not procreating with white men, which puts my black brother, check this out, nothing against interracial marriages, but if we're going to go back to the Bible, you can look in the book of Ezra. And when
Mm-hmm.
these men began to procreate with the people who were not of the same race, God
Right.
said, leave the children, leave the women, you got to go.
Right.
God was not playing. Ezra had to rip his clothes apart. He was so hurt. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? God ain't
Mm-hmm.
playing. Let me
Right.
listen. I done went off on a rant, man, but
because it's important.
If the white women, I didn't know Trump wrote that in a book.
Yeah, he wrote it in the book. He was talking about how the birth rate in America was going down,
Yes,
and
yes.
he made it specific. He made it specific about he would like to see white women have more babies.
David Duke said the same thing in the 60s and the 70s.
Mm-hmm. This
This
is right
this
before
was
he
the
ran for president.
precursor. That was the precursor to what we have now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, no, listen, no, Donald Trump don't want women walking around with dead babies in them. That's not what he wants.
No.
They want you to go have those babies. Now people will use that as an excuse to have an abortion. He's trying to
Mm-hmm.
tell you, white woman, you're gonna kill our race. They're the ones who hold the key. You better
Mm-hmm.
listen to what I'm saying as it relates to the white race of becoming larger.
No,
And I'm not
they.
talking about having babies by Dante and Jerome. Now, we got some white boys with a name Jerome probably, but that's not what I mean. What I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying is, culturally speaking, you need to have more babies with your white man. That way y'all can stop killing ours. Because
Mm-hmm.
because they're afraid to death that you want to sleep with Becky, right?
Oh yeah.
And that she
Mm-hmm.
wants to sleep with you.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, nothing against, again, nothing against interracial marriages, nothing
No.
against people sleeping around. But look.
Go ahead.
When you get ready to get married, I know you're gonna go off to college, you're gonna play around, you got some desires, but when it comes to having those babies, have them with your race. And it's not wrong, nothing wrong with that. But it will alleviate some of the fear that the white man has because they're looking at the numbers. They're
Mm-hmm.
looking.
And then you think about the baby, the poor baby who born in or not saying it's always like that, but the poor baby, sometimes they so confused. They don't know if I'm white today, and they don't
Yes,
know if I'm black today,
you,
tomorrow.
you, you better be quiet. And listen, there are testimonies and narratives out there by biracial children who say, I went to my grandmama's house. They pick on me over there on my
They call me
white.
white girl over here,
Yes.
and then I
And
go to my white grandmama. They calling me a nigga over here. Oh
yes. And
boy,
why
goddamn.
would why would you do your child like that?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Well, when my mama not around, they touching me. When my dad is, because they said we really not related. It's a lot of hurt that goes along with making certain that you want some biracial children.
Oh, I got a whole out in Arizona, in Phoenix, Arizona. I have a whole over 100 and some cousins who are products
Wow.
interracial marriage, and
And listen,
some of
listen.
some
This is
some of
stuff.
them identify as black, and some of them identify as whatever.
Yes. And it confuses the seed. It
Yep.
confuses the seed. You don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want that for your children. But I'm
No.
not saying, don't get me wrong now. I ain't saying you can't love who you love. Well, we
Right.
met, we fell in love, and this and that. You're not thinking about preserving your own race.
Mm-mm.
And it forces your man to fear what could be.
Right.
Now they picking on my brothers, my sons.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing,
Right.
nothing wrong with getting out there marching, Black Lives Matter. But when you go home to Scotty. Okay, go home to Chase. Let him know, baby. We are a unit. I don't like the way they treat black people, but I love you. I,
Mm-hmm.
I think I think what's happening, we're getting so emotional. And see, women emotional anyway. So I'm gonna lay
Right.
down, I'm gonna give him a little bit, but girl, go home. Don't take no baby home with you that's gonna be biracial. We've seen the movies. We've seen the baby over in the UK. She was like a She was royal, some royal baby. Her daddy had a baby when, with a black woman and all of this. And it wasn't as bad in the UK coming through. They would acknowledge the Moors and stuff, but we still have a fight across this globe for being black. And if the white woman would just do right, girl, cross your legs and go home. But anyway, I done worked up a sweat, man. It's 10:49.
Okay, yeah, well.
But thank you so much for coming on, brother. We really appreciate what you're doing with these tours and making certain that people are aware of their history, because it is so important. It's so important. And I'm going to go look you up. I'm going to look you up, and I'm gonna like you and follow you.
Yeah, we want them to stand. We want them to stand where these historical events happen, so that they can get the spirit and the presence of what happened, so that wherever they're from, they can go back with a new mind and a new perception and a new thought about Mississippi, the state that we love.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, brother.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
And on that note, Angela Buckner here, Delta Sip. What we sip slow, talk what we know. And now I gotta go.
Mommy, the Mike Magazine. Facebook is okay. However, YouTube is way better. Go follow my mom on YouTube.
That's right.
Like, subscribe, get notified. Timothy Buckner here, a voice behind the mic.
And remember, if you need a professional commercial, let me know. Angela Buckner here, the voice behind.